This container ship was 5 years old. Nothing hit it. There was no collision and no fire that morning. It simply broke in half in the open ocean. And after 2 years of investigation, no one could say for certain why. The most watched account of this wreck blames tired steel and the yard that built her. The official finding is stranger than that. This is what actually happened. Minute by minute. She was a post-Panamax container ship. 316 meters long. 8,110 boxes at full capacity. Built in Japan in 2008. She was almost brand new, delivered in 2008. And just 19 days before this voyage, she passed a full survey. Nothing was found. On the 11th of June, 2013, she left Singapore for Jeddah. With 4,000 containers and 26 crew. She never arrived. She sailed loaded to 99% of the bending stress her class rules allowed, and 94% of the shear. That was normal. That was legal. The forecast was known. Heavy weather in the Arabian Sea on the 17th. Swells of 5 to 6 meters. One planning note even warned her speed might be impossible to hold. The next forecast raised the swell 5 to 6 meters, or more. But the warning about speed had quietly vanished. The schedule still asked for full revolutions to reach Jeddah on time. That night she pushed west into a rising sea. By dawn her master had already eased back. Slowing the engine, taking the weather seriously. Everything he did was by the book. 7:45 in the morning. 430 miles off the coast of Oman. 2 large waves struck the port bow, and the whole ship shuddered, a jerk, a jolt, a bang. The bridge felt her begin to arch. The bow was now riding the waves on its own, moving independently of the stern, as if the two ends no longer belonged to the same ship. Below, in the engine room, fuel tanks that had been empty were suddenly filling. The bilge alarms began to sound, one after another. The chief officer went into the passage beneath the deck. Number 6 hold was flooding, a container deep. The steel of the side shell was already deformed. Oil traced the water pumped over the side. Boxes began to fall from the deck. A distress call went out. When he went back, he saw daylight. Through a crack in the hull that was widening as he watched, on both sides of the ship. There was nothing left to do but leave her. The life rafts were too dangerous to board. 26 men took to the ship's single enclosed lifeboat and pulled alongside a container ship that had come to their aid. At 11:36, the last man reached the deck of the ship that had come to save them. 12 minutes later, she broke in two, and the halves drifted apart. So why did she break? A 5-year-old ship, built to the rules, in weather she should have carried without complaint. The reconstruction points here. To the bottom of the hull, beneath number 6 hold, where stiffened steel plates were squeezed from 2 directions at once and buckled. Add the whipping, the whole hull ringing like a struck bar each time she slammed into a wave. For an instant, the stress climbed past what the steel could hold. But here is the problem. The ship, her records, and her data recorder all lie under 4,000 meters of water. The break itself was never examined. The root cause cannot be stated with any certainty. But even that 99% rested on the declared weight of every box aboard. If those were understated, she was never really at 99, she was already beyond it. It had happened before. On an earlier ship that broke her back, a check found 137 boxes out of 660 heavier than declared, by at least 3 tons each. After she broke, they inspected her 6 sister ships. 5 of them had deformation in the bottom plating, in the same place. Yet her own survey, 19 days earlier, had found nothing. The stern went first. down 30 degrees by the head, rolling in an 8-meter swell, shedding containers, until it sank 4,000 meters, with 1,700 boxes. The bow was taken under tow. The line parted. Then, days later, it caught fire. It burned through the night, and sank still burning. 23 days after she first cracked open. Quietly, the operator pulled all 6 sisters from service and rebuilt their hulls to roughly twice the required strength. The industry rewrote its rulebook. New strength standards for large container ships, accounting for the sideways loads, and for the whipping, that had not been fully counted before. And from then on, every container had to be weighed and verified before it was loaded. After all of it, the only formal safety recommendation that came out of her loss was about ventilating lifeboats, because 26 men had sat in a sealed box, in the heat, for an hour and a quarter. Why the ship herself broke apart was left open.